the old world, we're going to have to go out and find our own health insurance, and you're right, it's not easy.
I have another issue on healthcare. Sorry, I'm sorry. Well, I have a father who's 92. He has senior dementia. I know a number of people who have family members who have problems, or they break a leg or whatever, and need someone to care for them. It's outrageously expensive because you have to hire people. If you're working, it jumbles the family up. My father, he somewhat knows he does not want to live. I want the right to die. I want the right to die. I want to be able to have that right. I don't want to have to stockpile pills. I don't want to have to put a tailpipe in my...
Yeah, I'm cutting you off, you're right. That's a whole other interesting issue. Let me go back to your original question. I think it always helps when you look at any issue, healthcare, tax policy, free trade, education policy, understand what your worldview is. And start there and then work down into the details. And I think when it comes to healthcare in this country, we've got two worldviews. And it's okay to be on either side of this. You either believe in a more activist government role in healthcare, because this problem is only going to get worse. We're aging, we're staying alive longer, we're staying healthier longer. This problem of healthcare that we've got is only going to get worse when it comes to cost and access. There are only two ways to go. You either want government to be the one that primarily funds for and takes care of this issue, or, I'm on the other side of this, you want to put us as a people and the market more in charge of that.
Yes.
So hold on, but let's not get into that debate yet. So start with your worldview. You asked me what my solution is. My worldview is over here. So in the short term, what would that lead me to do? A few really simple things to start off. I think one of the reasons insurance is so expensive, they're already over-regulated and over-mandated to the hilt, because government's already on top of them. I think that we should be able to compete across state lines for insurance. I've got lawyers in my family. I love lawyers. I think tort reform's a real problem. Right. We need a real problem. Medicaid is a huge problem. And Obamacare basically, what most people don't realize, basically is going to push half of the people into Medicaid. Medicaid, which is already bankrupting states, within 5 to 6 years is going to see their caseloads double. We have got to reform Medicaid. And there are a number of ways, but the whole notion of a block grant process where we let, when our founders set up this country, they envisioned 50 little experimental labs. So we put states in charge to figure out how best to deal with their Medicaid population. So instead of the heavy hand of the federal government coming down and saying, here's your money, here's how you have to deal with this issue, just give them the money in a block grant, let states figure out what to do. Here's my final long-term, if you're a free market person on healthcare, here's my final long-term solution. This is the hard one, because no politician ever likes to say this. It's on us. We, in this country, want and expect the best healthcare in the world. We don't really care about the cost, because let's be honest, folks, unless you're in real dire straits, and there are a lot of people like that in this country, in general, most of us don't feel the real cost of healthcare. Our employer picks it up, the government picks it up, the insurance company picks it up. We, folks, are adding to this problem because we want every test under the sun. We want the best care in the world, and we know somebody's going to pick it up. Unless we begin to get to the point where we are more in charge of our healthcare costs, I don't know how you ever get out of this problem. So there are simple little reforms like health savings accounts, where you can manage your own health care money. You can decide how you're going to spend it. You can decide what treatments and what costs you think you want to pay for. Until we get to the point where we begin to put ourselves a little bit more in charge of those costs, boy, it's going to be a big issue. Hold that thought, let's spread it around. All the way in the back.
You know, I think if you get to the point that you talked about earlier, tort reform, I mean, one of the reasons why the doctors order all these tests is because they're afraid of getting the sock suit off them, right?
Right.
Attack tort reform first and see what it does to the overall equation.
Question? I agree.
You know, I'll lead the issues to our fellow citizens here, but the most important thing to me is that you're able to keep your character and your integrity. And I was interested, it was an interesting article this morning on the Town Hall by Ken Connor, The Fine Art of Seduction. And I'll leave you a copy of this.
Thank you.
Okay, and there was also another article from that was from the Washington Post on the same issue. You know, and I'm just going to quote a couple lines from it. Washington, a world where money buys influence and careerism trumps consistent service. Scripture tells us that the love of money is the root of all evil, and the borrower is the slave to the lender. The seduction of this year's congressional freshmen, and they go on to that, okay? Successful campaigns this election season were based upon anti-incumbent, anti-Washington, anti-special interest messages. And I think that's the majority of us, at least I know why I voted for you, was really an anti-vote, because you're unknown to me, just like the president was unknown to me, and still is. Promises that a vote for them would translate into a vote for changing the way Congress does business on Capitol Hill. I'm afraid of this pork barrel. This you have a lot of debt, I would imagine. My guts tell me that you didn't get a lot of support from the Republican Party as far as money. You didn't get a lot of support from people on K Street, and I want to make sure that you don't fall into that seduction.
Okay, and let me stop you, because again, all great question, but again, all my cards are on the table, and I addressed this at the last town hall, and I've talked about this during the campaign. Look, I propose, and you all who've heard me know, I'm going to be something very different in Washington. You may disagree with me on a lot of things. I'm a term limit guy. I just don't think people are ready. But has nothing to do with party.
There's a lot of people who said that who didn't change.
Exactly.
And
Both
we're
parties.
going to hold you to that.
Absolutely, and you should. But that.
Could you?
Thanks. But let's a couple important distinctions. So yes, I'm old-fashioned. I believe in the notion our founders had. You send people there temporarily. It's a sacrifice to go there. You go there to serve. You don't go there to enrich yourself. You don't go there to make a career out of it. You go there temporarily to serve, and then you come back home and you're going. That's what I believe in. But now, very important, this whole notion of money and special interest politics and K Street. You and I may disagree on this. I've taught American government. There's a reason our founders put the notion of special interest groups in the Constitution. It's a way for the common man to gather, come together, and speak with one voice. There is nothing under the sun wrong with any special interest group who wants to give me money when I tell them this is what I believe in. A, B, C, D, E, F. Now, if you want to give me money to help get me reelected, lovely. Whether it's teachers gather and give money to candidates, people in the unions gather, come together, form a group, and give money to the unions. Big, bad corporations do the same thing. They all do. And so, again, I've never found anything wrong at all with taking whatever you want to call special interest money. I didn't take a lot last time around. Point. Go ahead. Follow up.
Well, I just want to clarify. There's many of us who will give you $5, $10, $15, $30, $50, whatever it is, to get out of debt from your campaign. Just remember, you could do that. Just don't give in to the K groups.
Absolutely. And a great point, and I won't.
the states in this country have found it in their wisdom to promise about $3.5 trillion to pensions, primarily California, Illinois, New Jersey, and New York. And the article I've written is they're about to knock on your door to bail them out of this. And I believe the state of Illinois, for example, has enough money for about till March or April. What can you do to protect my son's wallet from being raided?
Yeah, let me. If I offend anyone with a couple answers right here, I apologize. Ronald Reagan was one of my favorite presidents. The beauty with Ronald Reagan to me always was he spoke so simply. And oftentimes elected officials get hit over the head when they speak so simply. But I'm one of those guys who believes the answers often are so simple. So let me say this. There are two potential big scary votes that I'm going to face in February and March. One is, will I vote to bail out a state? Two, will I vote to raise the debt ceiling? And so I just lead with these answers. I will not vote to bail out any state in the union. Two, I will not vote to raise the debt ceiling. Knowing full well what the consequences of either of those actions may be. Question?
Yes, considering the executive order policy that this administration set, what would you do to rein in that power? People who are circumventing the Congress and Senate as well when they keep it going?
It's a great question, and it's a real abuse. And with the Republicans now in charge of the House, I think probably one of the most active roles that they're going to play these next 6 months, and I've been in enough meetings now that I know they mean it, is they are going to hold hearings not just on healthcare reform, not just on financial regulation reform, but on a number of these other issues.